up? Welcome to Thrive Thursday. So I'm going to try something new. I know I've had a lot of questions from people about how do I make recipes using Thrive ingredients. So I'm gonna see how this works. We'll do a few videos of me making the recipe and see if that helps answer some questions. Today I'm gonna make Shrimp Alfredo. This is with Thrive Life Shrimp, brand new product. So super excited about this. So many possibilities you can make with shrimp. So this is freeze-dried shrimp. And let me tell you, if you don't like the smell of seafood, yeah, good luck. Because woo, it is a seafood smell as soon as you open that can. But see the size of the shrimp? Nice and small. So I'm excited to have this in our food storage just because, I mean, it's seafood, right? So that's something, if you ever had to live off your food storage, seafood would be something you would probably miss if you're landlocked like I am. So I'm super excited that this seafood has a long shelf life, and now we have shrimp, freeze-dried shrimp. So I'm gonna go ahead and tilt the camera down and I'll show you how to make the shrimp Alfredo. For this recipe, we're gonna start with my basic Alfredo sauce recipe. Now this recipe I came across years ago and I'm telling you, it is the best. It's super easy, anybody can do it. You can't really mess it up. So you're gonna take a cube of butter and melt it in your pan. And when I get the butter mostly melted, I'll add the cream cheese. The cream cheese usually takes a little bit longer for it to melt, so it's a good idea to kind of get it started and going with the butter. That way your butter doesn't burn. So at this point, it's not that it's hard or anything, hard to do. It just takes a little bit of time and patience, and you kind of have to babysit it just a little bit. I'm going to also add some garlic powder. Now, you can add the garlic powder later in the recipe with the sauce if you want, but I figured may as well go ahead and add it now, and we'll get some good garlic powdered flavor in with the butter and cream cheese. So this really just depends on your preference, how much you like garlic. I put about 1.5 teaspoons of garlic powder in there. We really like garlic at my house. Now you could also do like minced garlic if you wanted to do that instead. For that though, I would probably add it later in the recipe because you definitely don't want the minced garlic to burn. And so at this point, you're just going to, you're waiting to melt the cream cheese, and it helps if you break it up a little bit. It's a little tricky with a whisk here, but we'll get it. Again, it just takes a little bit of time and patience. And I think I didn't really have my burner on super hot here either. It's a little faster on the stove top, but that's okay. So we're just breaking up the cream cheese, just kind of helps it melt a little bit faster, because essentially that's all we're doing is we're melting the cream cheese, and then we're going to mix the cream cheese and the butter. So you want to emulsify the cream cheese and butter. Now, I'm not speeding up this video on purpose, just because I want you to see how easy this sauce and recipe is. It really is not hard. I know sometimes I watch videos and they get sped up and you're like, oh yeah, okay, that probably took them a half hour to make and they just sped it up and so showed it in 5 minutes. But this really doesn't take that long to make. Like I said, the longest part is just getting this cream cheese to melt. And you can have your burner up higher than I had mine, of course, that would speed things up. So for this, I mean, just using my whisk, like if you wanted to cut the cream cheese up first before putting it in, that's fine. There's no wrong way to do this, really. You're just getting that cream cheese as it starts to get warm. It'll slowly melt, and you want to, the cream cheese and the butter will both melt, but they'll be separate. And so using the whisk and mixing them around, you're basically combining the butter into the melted cream cheese, and that's what you want. Now, when I make this recipe for like chicken Alfredo or just as an Alfredo sauce, we usually have it in a stock pan so I can whisk it really hard. So this is a frying pan. I can't really whisk it too hard or else things will come out of the frying pan, and I keep wiping it up a little bit occasionally when I do that. But But when I'm making it like for a big dinner for my family, I will do this in a stock pot, so I can even tilt the stock pot on the corner a little bit and whisk it really, really hard. So normally you want to mix this all together until the cream cheese and the butter are one. Basically, you've emulsified them like you would in a vinaigrette dressing or something, right? You're mixing the oils and the fats together, and you don't want them to separate. But for this, since I am doing shrimp, I was, like I said, normally I would mix them all together until it was one sauce. But I got thinking, what goes good with shrimp? Obviously, butter. You can never use too much butter when you're cooking with shrimp. So I decided to add the shrimp in before the cream cheese and the butter were fully blended, because that way that shrimp could kind of absorb some of that butter and have a really good flavor. Now, if you don't want to do that, of course, you don't have to do that. You can keep mixing them. It does mix and blend a lot better together when it's in a stock pot. Just because it's deeper sides and you can really whisk it hard and fast is what you have to do to blend them really the way that they need to be blended. And that's something we would do for a normal Alfredo sauce recipe that we're doing. But this one we're kind of going to be adding, because the shrimp is freeze-dried and the broccoli is freeze-dried, I'm not reconstituting the shrimp or the broccoli beforehand. We're going to add them into the sauce and let them reconstitute in our Alfredo sauce. So that way they get all that good Alfredo flavor right there, and they just cook right with the sauce. You totally can do that with anything with Thrive Life or freeze-dried foods. When you're making them, you don't have to reconstitute them in water and rehydrate them in water first. If you're making anything with a sauce, just add them dry. Add them dry into the sauce. Sometimes that means that you might need to add a little bit more liquid. So like in this case, I might need to add a little bit more milk to the sauce, because you're going to have your shrimp and your broccoli absorbing some of that liquid, right? But if you're making a casserole, anything like that has a sauce, soups are wonderful for freeze-dried stuff, because literally you've already got the sauce there, right? So for this recipe, I'm going to go ahead and add the shrimp here, because I do want it to absorb some of this butter into that shrimp flavor, because, shrimp and butter. And Addie was watching and she wanted to sample a freeze-dried shrimp, so of course I let her sample one. I'm just using a cup of the freeze-dried shrimp, because remember, freeze-dried foods go a lot further than you think they will. Now add your milk in slowly. So I'm just going to add a little bit at a time and kind of mix it in, because remember that shrimp is rehydrating. As soon as it went in there, it started to rehydrate. But you don't want a lumpy sauce. We don't want lumpy Alfredo. So I'm just going to add it in a little bit at a time. Make sure it's incorporating and it's basically making a thin sauce. As before it gets too thick, I want to add more milk until I have the full 2 cups. So proportion wise, so far we've got 1 cube of butter, or a quarter of a cup, or sorry, half a cup, 1 cube of butter, which equals 1/2 cup of butter, and 1 cube or 8 ounces of cream cheese, 2 cups of milk, 1 cup of the freeze-dried spinach, and it looks like about 1 3/4 cups of freeze-dried broccoli there. And now that I've got those all, and then we had about 1.5 teaspoons of garlic powder. Now that I've got these all in there, we're going to let them absorb some of that milk and that liquid for a bit, and then I'm going to add the Parmesan cheese. Your basic Alfredo sauce is basically Parmesan cheese and garlic, and in a heavy cream sauce. So cream, you could use heavy whipping cream or regular milk. It just depends on how healthy you want to make it. So now that we have everything else there, we're just going to add 2 cups of Parmesan cheese. And this is this Parmesan cheese, I keep mine in the freezer there. You can use the Thrive Life freeze-dried Parmesan cheese, which I just didn't have a can open, so I used what I had in the freezer. But this would be such an amazing, you could literally do it with almost all freeze-dried ingredients. You've got, Thrive Life has freeze-dried butter powder, they've got the instant milk, they've got the Parmesan cheese, they even have freeze-dried garlic. And that is really good. So I mean, you could literally make this whole recipe using all Thrive Life freeze-dried foods. And it's super quick. So the longer that it cooks in here, all that shrimp and that broccoli is just going to rehydrate. And it really doesn't take that long. One thing to remember when you're rehydrating freeze-dried foods is the hotter the liquid, the faster they'll rehydrate. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to have hot liquid to rehydrate. You can rehydrate stuff in cold water. Just remember, it's probably going to take a little bit longer. And so the hotter the liquid is, the faster it's going to rehydrate. So we're going to just let this cook for a little bit. And also, as it cooks, we're melting the Parmesan cheese, and with the cheese melting and the shrimp and the broccoli rehydrating, it's going to naturally thicken this sauce up quite a bit. So we're just going to stir that, and pretty much, I mean, the sauce is pretty much done. We're just waiting for that Parmesan cheese to melt and for the shrimp and broccoli to rehydrate, and we're good to go. We can just add our pasta into it. I had the pasta cooking on the stove while I was making this. This is such a fast recipe, such a fast, easy dinner. Can you imagine just making this on a weeknight? So easy and quick to do. And you've got this delicious dinner, and it's just a matter of less than 13 minutes. This whole thing, start to finish, took to make. So just check your cheese every once in a while. Make sure, and the Parmesan cheese is shredded, so it is small pieces, so they do melt fairly fast. And so I just wanted to check my pasta, and let's make sure the pasta is all cooked and ready to add right into the sauce. If you don't want to add the pasta into the sauce, you can have them separate as two separate dishes and pour the Alfredo and the shrimp and broccoli on top of the pasta. But we like to mix them at our house. That way it seems like you don't ever get an imbalance of sauce versus noodles, right? But it looks like the cheese is starting to get pretty melted here. See that string? You can see the elasticity of the sauce. That's the melted cheese, and that's the good part. And when you start to see that, you know that cheese is melting. That's going to be a good sauce. And so it's thickening up. You can see it's getting really thick there too. As everything's thickened up, the shrimp and the broccoli have had time to rehydrate. And look at that stringy cheese. I love it. All the cheese is now melted. The sauce is thickened. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the burner. And let's add our noodles. And once the noodles are in, we're done. We're good to go. We made this for lunch for the kids and I, but you could do this for dinner, for lunch. This is, so quick and so easy. Literally, it took the same amount of time for my noodles to cook as it did for the sauce and the shrimp and broccoli. That's just amazing. Less than 13 minutes. Can you imagine? It would take you longer than that to order dinner at a restaurant or to wait for pizza or something to be delivered. And this is all so easy. And the ingredients, like I said, you could use all shelf-stable, Thrive Life freeze-dried ingredients for this whole recipe. So I hope this gives you some good ideas. Now, you could do this instead of shrimp. You could put chicken in it. If you don't like shrimp, you could do this exact same recipe and do chicken instead. Or you could do no meat. If you are a vegetarian, you can go ahead and just do no meat. Add peas instead of broccoli. There's a lot of things that you can do. This is just a basic Alfredo recipe, this sauce. So you can change it up however you want. If you want to do it in like a lasagna, we've done veggie lasagnas with this sauce. It's amazing. It's great. You could do a seafood lasagna with this sauce. That would be amazing, with just some different types of noodles and have your shrimp and all that. But there we go. We'll just stir this up really good and get that sauce covered, all the noodles covered with the sauce really well. And that is it. It's so simple. This is something anybody could do. Your kids could do this for dinner. Literally from start to finish, I can tell you, less than 13 minutes. And I know this because I have the timer on my video right now telling me how long it's been. So start to finish, 13 minutes on this shrimp and broccoli Alfredo. Oh my gosh. And it smells wonderful. It would take you longer. You'd wait longer at a restaurant if you ordered it and sat at a restaurant for it. So, I mean, this is awesome. So I can't wait because it smells amazing. And it's still pretty hot. That was a big piece of broccoli. Oh my gosh. So good. Yeah. I almost don't want to show my kids this video because I think they'll want to make it all the time. It's pretty good. All right. I hope that helped you learn a quick and easy meal you can make using Thrive Life broccoli and Thrive Life shrimp.